Okay, so today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're on the Summoner School subreddit, and we have 5 questions that I want to answer, except nobody's asked me to answer these questions, but we're going to answer them anyway. So this is 5 questions from the Summoner School subreddit that nobody asked me to answer, but I'm going to answer anyway, because I find them interesting. And I think perhaps some people will find the answers interesting too. So let's start with this one. Double Enchanter Botlanes. Now, I actually have gone over this one already, but my camera was covering the text, so we have to redo it. So, Double Enchanter Botlanes by A Little Piece of Toast. Nice name, by the way. So, my friend and I were playing Double Enchanter Botlanes and getting ahead, but losing the game through other lanes. First game, we lost off attack top. Okay, he's blaming his team. Second game was going well for a spot. Team Fed and we lost, and he's again going to blame his team here. He's basically saying that, we were winning our lane on Karma Seraphine, but our team fed, so we lost. So, there's 3 things that I find really interesting, or 2 things I find really interesting about this post. It's very interesting, actually. So the first thing, it is certainly possible that you had 3 bad teammates in a row. That happens to literally everyone ever. You have a tiny sample size of 3, of course. There's going to be a lot of fluctuation there. So unless your sample size is 50, don't even bother asking about this because, it's fine. Just write it off. It happens to everyone. What does interest me about this post a lot is even though this post is made out of tilt, it actually shows how he thinks about the game, which I find super interesting. It shows how this guy thinks about the game because he isn't aware of why it is these games are being fucked up for him. So let's look at it. So what I want him or anyone watching to realize or think about is this sentence here. Is there anything different Enchanter bot lanes are supposed to do in mid-late games to help win? Or do we just have bad teammates 3 games in a row? Particularly the first part of the sentence here. So let's think about what it actually entails to pick an Enchanter bot lane. What do Enchanters do? Well, Enchanters, think about Lulu in the Cog Lulu lane. Lulu's job isn't to carry that game. Lulu isn't going to hard carry this game by any means. Lulu is going to let Cog more hard carry the game. Now, what happens if you pick 2 of those in the same lane? Is one of them suddenly going to hard carry the game? No, of course they're not. What does happen is now it's completely up to a team to hard carry the game. It is really fucking hard for you to actually hard carry a game on, what is he playing? Karma Seraphine or something? Karma Seraphine. It is really fucking hard for you to carry this game, man. Let's look at why. And I don't think this guy understands that, which is why I find this post interesting. He doesn't appear to understand he's put himself in a position where he can't carry, and then he's complaining that he can't carry. Now, before we start talking about this, I will say, of course you can carry with Karma Seraphine, but you're not making it easy for yourself, really, are you? So, let's look at this. I'm not saying Karma Seraphine's a bad lane. I haven't actually played it. I am saying it does come with problems, and it's going to affect how you play the game a lot. So let's look at that. Let's first look at damage. Where the fuck is the damage in this lane, man? This is a 0 damage lane. Especially, you know what? They just take Nullifying Orb and 2 Magic Resist runes. You're never going to fucking kill them. No, you're never going to kill anyone, frankly. And this guy might say, oh yeah, but I did a lot of damage in this game. I did the 2nd most damage in the team. That's great, but can you imagine if you're playing Jhin? Do you think you'd do less damage? No, you'd do way fucking more. So damage is already a problem. Damage to objectives is a problem. Do you know how long it's going to take your team to take Baron and Dragon because of this? Because you're playing Karma Seraphine? Baron now becomes way fucking harder to take because you have 0 damage taking it. I also thought about this from the jungler's perspective. Now, if I'm playing jungle and my bot lane is playing Karma Seraphine, that completely changes how I'm going to play the game. Because I'm thinking a couple things. I'm thinking, how the hell are these guys going to follow up to a gank? Especially pre-6. It's so hard for me to gank them. Because they have 0 fucking follow-up. Not only do they have pretty pathetic damage, but if they don't have, Karma Flash W, for example, there's no Nautilus, there's no Leona, there's no Pike. It's kind of hard for me to follow up on a gank in this lane, especially because it's Seraphine. So now I'm thinking, do I even gank this lane? Maybe I go play around another lane, even though I don't want to, because you've kind of limited my options here, because you're playing Karma Seraphine. I'm also thinking, when you're playing jungle and you're ganking a lane, you also have to think about whether it's not only worth it for you, but worth it for the person you're ganking, Is it really worth you ganking a really difficult matchup if they're still going to lose the matchup, even if you do a successful gank? No, it's not. It's much better to gank a lane that's actually going to do something with it. Often that lane is bot lane, but not so much when you're playing Karma Seraphine. If I'm playing jungle, I look at you playing Karma Seraphine, I'm thinking, do I actually want to waste my fucking time with this? What's going to change if I gank this lane? Are they going to hard carry the game? No. So do I actually want to invest my time, or should I go and gank mid lane instead? So you're already, just me as the jungler, you're already changing how I think about the game. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is different, which is the point. Also think about your team here. You're playing Karma Seraphine. Do you not think that maybe is going to limit what your team plays? Not only is it going to mean that they have to play something high damage, your mid laner cannot get away with playing Galio and your top laner playing a tank. You can't get away with that because you have 0 damage, you're never going to fucking kill anyone. This is going to affect what your team picks, if they're smart. It will affect what they pick, and that's already a problem. You've put them in an uncomfortable position, potentially. Not only that, you're playing a double AP bot lane, man. Do you not think that maybe now your mid lane is thinking, shit, I have to play Zed or Yasuo because my jungler is playing Gragas? It's going to affect what they pick because now they can't pick an AP mid. So you've affected your team in so many ways, and this guy doesn't seem to realize it. You can't affect your team in this many ways and put all the eggs in your team's basket because you're essentially asking them to carry the game because you're playing 2 enchanters and kneecap your own ability to use your lead in lane and then complain that you can't carry the game. You put yourself in that position, man. If you're playing Jhin Pike and you were getting ahead in lane, it's so much easier for you to carry the game. It's so much easier for your jungler to gank for you. It's so much easier for your team to pick different things. You can do objectives. You can do everything so much easier, but you've kneecapped yourself, and then you're complaining that you can't carry the game. So it's strange. So what I would say to this guy is just consider this, or even anyone else who's in a similar position, which I don't imagine many people are. Just consider what you're actually doing when you're picking these lanes, man. They might be good for certain things, sure, but you need to realize that it's going to affect the way you play the game, and it's definitely going to affect the way your team plays the game and thinks about the game. So that's what I'd say to this guy, because he really doesn't seem to understand it, and nobody else has really pointed out in the comments. So yeah. Okay, number 2. I've read over this one briefly. Need help understanding how to improve by I love Ask Too Much. So one of these names. Started playing in Season 9, I haven't really stuck into one role, kept switching. Jungle, AD, carry, I understand the game, I understand what I have to do, and practice things like CS and positioning. How do you practice positioning? I've tried to improve countless times. I want to play AD carry, but it's useless. Biggest issue is the server I play on Garena. I know Garena fucking sucks, I'm sorry you play on there, but that is not the biggest issue here. If you want to improve, that's not the problem. I can't choose AD carry every game. I don't understand, 5 people can be bought. I have new players on my team, okay. While the enemy team has 3 champs with 1 million points on their champs, okay. The only option is playing ranked, but it's tilting. I can't learn. Everyone's pinging me. Supporting my farm. As soon as middle top feeds, I'm facing an 8-0 Z. Yasuo Darius minute 15. Okay, so this post is interesting. It's very interesting, which is why I wanted to go over it. So usually when I coach people, almost always there's people in gold, but this guy's bronze. There's a spectrum, and almost always, probably like 90%, 95% of the people are on one end of the spectrum or the other. Very rarely do you find someone in the middle. Now, on one end, you have the delusional people. The straight-up delusional people who are fucking impossible to work with. These people think that they will never accept that they're actually just a gold player. They will never, ever accept it. They think that my team is shit, they're really shit, I'm just so unlucky, and I need to learn how to become a challenger player so I can get out of gold. They will never accept that to get out of gold, you just need to be a platinum player. They won't accept that. That's one end. They're rather difficult. The other end is the complete opposite. It's people who, they know they're terrible at the game, and they just want to fucking learn. They don't give a shit about their team. They are not concerned about the team. They are so easy to work with. They're way better. This guy's somewhere in the middle, which is interesting because you rarely find people like that. So I actually might reach out to this guy for like a free review or something if he's interested. But this guy's in the middle. He says a lot of conflicting things. He says, even if I win, I feel like I'm useless and I just got carried. But just before that, he says, I know what I have to do, but even if I do, someone is inting and I lose. So he can't seem to decide if it's his fault or someone else's, or if it's the server's fault. So let's go over this and point out some of the problems here, and maybe we can try help him. That had a hair in it. Yuck. So the first thing I read that really struck me is this statement here. And he says something similar here. I understand my issues. I know what I have to do. I understand the game, and I understand what I have to do, and I practice things like CS and positioning. So the first thing you need to understand, honestly, this applies to a lot of things in life. But the first thing you need to understand, if you want to improve, you need to just accept that you don't know what you're doing. You do not understand the game, man. I don't need to look at your replays to know that. I'm not saying that in a meme way, but you don't understand the game. You're in bronze, man. Even if you're in gold, I'd tell you, no, you don't understand the game either. Even if you're in diamond, I'd tell you. I don't understand the game. Not that well. You don't understand the game, and you don't understand what you have to do. If you did, you would have this problem. Now, the way I would paint this actually to you is the only way I would tell you that you're right about this and that you do understand the game, you do know what your problems are, and you do know what you have to do. The only way I would explain that you're still in bronze, there's 2 ways to explain it. One is that you're wrong, and that is the case. The other is that you have some actual problem, a physical, disability, or some kind of mental block, or you are the most unlucky person alive. And I've done the math for this. You're not the most unlucky person alive. It is the latter. Unless you actually have some like IRL problem that's stopping you from playing games, or you're playing the game on 1000 ping or something, then I'm right, and you don't understand the game. So that's the first thing you need to accept if you want to get better at the game, is that you don't know what you're doing. And you need to accept that, and once you accept that, then we can proceed and you can start learning about the game. You don't know what you're doing. Because if you did, then you'd be fixing these issues, and you wouldn't need to be posting on Reddit, and you wouldn't need to be asking people how to improve if you already know how to improve. Because if you know your problems, then you should know how to improve. You just fix the problems, right? Easy. But you don't. So that's the first thing I want to point out to you. The second thing I want to point out to you is he seems to be, questioning the role he's playing. He doesn't necessarily blame it on the role he's playing, but he said the role is tough and sometimes considered useless. I agree, the AD carry role is a little bit shit right now. It's not the best role for carrying the game. I mained that role for quite a while. But the thing is, it doesn't matter what role you play, especially when you're in bronze. If you were playing in Challenger, I could maybe see an argument. I believe I read a stat the other day that only something like 3 players in the top 50 Challenger were AD carries. But you're not. You're playing in bronze. It doesn't matter. And you know what? I'll tell you why it doesn't matter. Last season, I was playing with my IRL gold friend. I was on a Smurf, and I wanted to play with him. And we were playing bot lane. And I got bored after a while. I got really fucking bored of just tryharding on Leona and Thresh and Nautilus, whatever, Pike. So I went on a bit of a quest. I decided I'm going to see what the stupidest champion I could pick. I'm going to intentionally pick the worst thing I can think of and see what the worst thing I can actually win is. The worst champion I can win with support is. The answer was Ujia, by the way, if anyone's interested. It was unplayable, but we won anyway. I went through Kha'Zix. I went through Kog'Maw, Rek'Sai. I still have 100% win rate on Trundamere support. My friend has PTSD from me picking Trundamere support because I had to keep taking the farm to stack my rage. You get the point. I have 100% win rate in gold with fucking Trundamere support with like 11 games played. My point is, it does not matter what you are playing, especially in bronze. Man, I'm not that good at the game, but I have 100% win rate at Trundamere support in fucking gold. So I'm sure if you're playing anywhere near decently, or even at a silver level, you will be fine carrying games as an AD carry in bronze. So if AD carry is what you want to play, you fucking play AD carry, man. It's so much better for you to improve and learn the game if you're on a comfortable role that you enjoy playing, instead of, oh, I'm gonna go play mid lane now. I don't like it and I'm not comfortable on it, but I think it's better for carrying the game. That's not how you need to think about it, okay? You play whatever you want and whatever you're comfortable with. I can find you easily someone who plays fucking Veigar jungle in Diamond, right? Or Ahri AD carry. There's so many people who just play these obscure things, but because it's what they're comfortable with, it works out. So that's first of all I'd say. Drop the ego, you don't understand the game, and drop the, oh, I need to play something else other than AD carry. You want to play AD carry, you fucking play AD carry, okay? That's that. Drop this as well. Drop this. So just quickly, he says, I have new players on my team while the enemy team has 3 champs with 1 million points on their champs. So now I'm assuming because you've played the game for a few years, you're not working with a small sample size. I'm assuming you've played a little bit more than like 3 games or something, right? You need to understand, it doesn't fucking matter. It does not matter if how many champion mastery points someone has on their team. It doesn't matter if they're a one trick or not. It does not matter. You know why? Because they're in the same game as you, which means they have the same MMR, which means they're the same skill as you. It does not fucking matter if there's a 3 million point mastery Malphite in the enemy team, because he's still bronze. He's still a bronze player. That doesn't automatically mean, oh shit, this guy's really good. If anything, it means he's not that fucking good at the game if he's got 3 million mastery points in Malphite and he's still in bronze. It means he's pretty fucking bad at the game. So you need to forget about that as well, to be honest. I only just picked up on that, actually. So the rest is what I actually want to talk about. Is that, I'm facing an 8-0 Z, the Yasuo Darius. My team's feeding, and if I go equal in lane, I'm doing nothing. This is about the only accurate thing he says, by the way. If you go equal in lane, oftentimes you are doing nothing unless you're playing a mega scaling champion. So here's what I want this guy to do, and here's what I say to this guy. Drop all of this. Literally just disregard all of this, exactly like I said. Drop this as well. Everyone's pinging me. You know what? Disable chat. The best advice I can give you to this game. Go into the interface settings and turn chat off. At the start of every game, mute your entire team's pings. Please do it, because there is fucking nothing beneficial that these people can say to you. Now this, number one, you shouldn't give a shit about what your team thinks. You know why? Because they're also bronze. Who fucking cares what they think? Honestly, no one cares. Support's taking my farm. As soon as middle top feeds, I'm facing an 8-0 Z. This is what I think is almost exclusive to bronze. It's so easy to look at a game and think, the support takes my farm, or the mid or top is feeding. And it's so easy to look at that and just think, oh wow, yeah, rough situation, man. But have you actually thought about why this is happening? Have you thought about why the enemy Z is 8-0? You've probably only thought of it from the perspective, my teammate fed. You haven't thought of it as, oh, maybe Zed actually played well. Maybe Zed did something that I didn't think of, and maybe I can learn from this Zed, and I can watch the replay and I can see, oh, that's how Zed got fed, and I can do it the same. Your team are feeding, or the enemy team is fed because they created feeders. They played better. They likely put your team in a position where they could feed, and you could do the same thing if you wanted to learn how to play the game, or you could make a Reddit post and complain about it, instead of actually just doing the same fucking thing. You could absolutely do the same thing. You could do the same thing better if you want to. So this is what you need to understand. This whole part, you need to understand this, is that your team isn't feeding, the enemy team is creating feeders. And you too can learn how to create feeders. Now, how do you do that? Here's what I would say to a bronze player. I usually only give this advice to a bronze player, maybe a silver player. I want you to go into your games, and I want you to also forget about this. Stop caring about winning. Stop it. You cannot climb if you care about winning. It doesn't fucking work, man. Stop caring about winning. And you're going to go for queue for some ranked games, and you're going to play whatever the fuck you want. And you are going to play extremely aggressive. This is called limit testing. You're going to play very, very aggressive. If your brain tells you to do something or not to do something, do it. Because until you test your limits, until you understand what you can and can't do, you can't fucking learn. You can't create a feeder if you can't identify a situation where someone's feeding in the first place. I can play a 1v1 against you, and within 2 minutes, I can find 10 opportunities where you're running it down. But you don't know that. Because you probably haven't tested your limits. You haven't actually experimented with what it is you can and can't do, because you're too concerned about what your team's doing, and you're too concerned about the role you're playing, and losing the game. Forget about that shit. right? It's a process, okay? You want to climb, it's a process. You don't climb by caring about each individual game. You climb by learning about each individual game. That's all that matters. So mute your team, fuck what they say, fuck all this stupid shit about 3 million mastery points, my role is useless. Go into your games, play aggressive, play the same champion, and learn your limits. And only then, when you stop caring and you've learned your limits and you've played aggressive and you now understand what you can and can't do, will you climb. Because you'll do things, you'll find that you'll put yourself in a situation where your brain will be telling you, no, I can't fight here. I really can't fight here. I'm going to die. And you fight and it actually works out. And then you learn. And then next time you're in this situation, you get another kill. And that's how you create feeders, okay? That's what I want this guy to do. That's what I want this guy to understand. Okay, so number 3. Questions about mid lane. How to roam properly mid game, Team Aram, CS versus kills by Robin. So I've read over this one, and it's pretty long, so we'll just go over the key points here. So he's been playing League, Dota 2 for a long time, plays Yone, Victor, Lux, Annie, and Ahri. I think he means Ahri here. I understand the concept of slow pushing and crashing the wave into the tower before roaming, but how do I handle this when the enemy mid matches my pushing power? Quite a lot of the time, neither of us are getting priority. Interesting. My ganks fail miserably. I walk through a ward all the time. This is important. I'm paying attention to the lane state of the lane. I'm ganking and only trying to gank when enemies are on our side of the river, so there's space to chase. Moving into mid-game, here he's just asking how he deals with araming, and we all know what he means. I'm guessing he's silver based on this, because it's really silver players that have this problem, and maybe low gold as well, even actually gold. I'm regularly leading the CS ball, but have low kill participation because my roams fail, and I feel stupid joining fights, especially when I'm behind. So I end up split pushing, but I'm a whole item weaker than somebody with 50 CS less than me, 10 more kills and assists. So there's a big underlying problem here that I want to talk about, but there's a couple things I want to briefly just go over first. The big underlying problem is actually basically every fucking player in silver has this problem. Because I'll tell you right now, if you fix this problem when you're in silver, you can be pretty shitty at everything else, and you will get out of silver if you fix this problem. So this interests me first of all. This whole post says to me that this guy is a very passive player. He might disagree with this, but it's true. I'll look at his games and I'll be right. He's a very passive player. He does not have much interest in winning his lane. And of course he wants to win his lane, but he doesn't really press the enemy and try and actually force a win in his lane. Instead, he wants to roam. And I have a lot of reasons to think that. First is because he has this obsession with roaming, but he says a lot of things in this post. First and foremost is because he has an obsession with roaming, but more importantly, it's this sentence here. How do I handle this when the enemy mid matches my pushing power? Quite a lot of the time, neither of us are getting priority. Now, it is very rare in the entire game, let alone in mid lane, and let alone, this seems like a consistent problem, so this is happening a lot. It is very rare you can find yourself in a matchup where this is actually the case. This is objectively the case that both of these mid laners have no kill threat on each other. You know, they're not killing each other, so they can't get control of the wave, or they can't chunk each other out, or make each other recall, or anything like that. It is so rare that a matchup like this exists. If it does exist, it involves like Orianna and some other boring-ass control mage, maybe like a Zia, maybe. But even then, it still doesn't exist. One of them's going to get the push. So just the notion, it's even rare to find yourself in a matchup where both of you push at the same rate. That's rare. But the other problem is, how are you finding yourself in that situation and also never managing to get kill threat on them? Because you know a way you can get priority over the wave? Kill the guy. Or make him recall. Make him stand there at low HP so he can't contest the wave. Pressure the guy. And then you can get control over the wave. You don't need to just sit there hitting the minions and ignoring the guy. The other guy exists. He can be manipulated. He can fuck up. You can make him fuck up. You can play aggressive and pressure the guy. That's how you can get control of the lane. This to me screams, I never pressure the enemy laner, so we both just sit there farming. That's what this says to me. And maybe, yeah, Yone and Victor, they don't have absurd lane pressure. Yone, particularly, into a lot of matchups, he kind of struggles in the lane phase a little bit. But Lux, Ahri, Annie, all of these champions, especially at level 6, have pretty good one-shot threat. You know, Lux can hit a random binding, Annie can flash tibbers and one-shot like any fucking champion in the game if she hits everything. Ahri can just get a random charm out of nowhere or get a nice chunk out with a Q. If you hit the wave and you hit the person, that's great pressure. You're not playing champions that remove your ability to pressure the lane, but it seems like you're playing like you don't want to pressure the lane at all. You have no interest in the lane, in fact. It seems that way. So I would almost say the same thing as I said to the last guy. Play aggressive, man. Pressure the guy. The enemy mid laner exists, and he's a resource that you can utilize. You need to understand that. Instead of just trying to play this game where you just farm and roam. It doesn't work like that, man. You can't just ignore the lane. Clearly, to wrap this part up, clearly you're playing passive, man. That's all I can say to you. You're playing passive. Something else. This also backs up what I'm saying. I'm paying attention to the lane state of the lane I'm ganking and trying to only gank when enemies are on our side of the river. So there's space to chase. Same concept in Dota. I highly doubt same concept in Dota. What I want you to do, you know what? If this guy's interested, I'll link him a pro game to show what I mean. It is a classic silver gold mistake to think, oh, they're not pushed past, they're not in our side of the river, so I can't gank them, right? or they're just going to run away. It is such a silver gold mistake. Dives exist. Watch a fucking pro game and watch what happens if the enemy top laner doesn't respect the threat of a I don't know, some early game jungler, a Jarvan Renekton, level 3. He doesn't respect that threat. The guy's going to get fucking dove, and he's going to die. What's going to happen? The enemy top laner will slow push the wave, the Jarvan will come top, level 3, and you know what he'll do? He won't even dive the guy, he'll zone the guy away from the wave. You slow push the wave, and then deny that guy the entire fucking wave, because if he tries to go near the tower, he's going to get dove and die. So, of course that's a pro game. We're talking about like a probably fucking silver reload game here, but it's the same concept. Just because someone is not on your side of the river doesn't mean they're ungankable. That is exactly why silver junglers are silver, because that's what they think. And that's exactly why they get fuck all kills, because they only focus on the lanes that are pushing, and they think, oh, this lane can't be ganked. They can be ganked. You know what you need to do to understand that? You said yourself you only gank people if they're on our side of the river. How about just experiment? Go try to gank someone when they aren't on your side of the river, when they're under the tower. Try and dive them. Yeah, you're going to fuck up. You're going to lose your team the game. They're going to flame you, but you're going to learn from it. And for every 3-4 times that you do fuck up and you do find that you just inted really hard trying to this tower dive, you're going to find one time where, oh, actually, this worked. And I didn't realize that. I didn't see that before, but now I realize this worked. You can dive people, man. You can be much more creative with ganks than you think. And if you watch a high elo jungler, you will see that. But that also, screams to me that this guy is a very scared player. He's very scared to fight, which, honestly, the meta the game's in at the minute is like half the fucking game. There's a lot of fighting in this meta. A lot of it. It's insane. I mean, look at the champions of EU. It's fucking mad lions. All they do is fight when they're behind. And I mean, he even said himself that he's scared to fight, etc. So, what else? There was also, the arming. Just before we talk about arming, we'll talk about this. Actually, no, we'll talk about the arming. So I can kind of combine them into one. So this is a problem that silver players have. Arming. And there's two types of silver players. Everyone in silver does this arm thing. And gold. They will take dragon, and they take all 3 outer towers, and then everyone in the game stands mid lane, and they just sit there pushing the waves, and nothing happens until someone leaves. And then maybe they fight. Happens all the time. And the thing is, there's two types of people that this happens to. 90% of them, probably 95% of them actually, they don't know they're doing it. They don't see this as a problem. They see this as, oh, we're just waiting for dragon to spawn. They don't actually see anything else on the map. They're ignoring everything else on the map. And then 5% of people, these are the people who get out of silver, they realize, this is a giant fucking waste of time. They realize, oh wow, there's an entire map of resources, and we're sitting here splitting it between 5 people, for Christ's sake. Those are the people who get out of silver, and that's what you need to understand. Now, he kind of understands that. He seems to be one of those people. He seems to be, oh, I try not to iron with them, and I try to go to the jungle and farm, and that's good, but he's doing it wrong. And I'll tell you why he's doing it wrong, and nobody ever points this out for some goddamn reason. So, I don't even need to look at your games to know this is the case. What people who realize this do, they realize they're arming, and they try to go to a side lane and farm, for example. They do go to side lane and farm, and they take a wave or two, but what they end up doing is turns out they actually have no clue how to manage a wave. At all. So they'll take 2 waves, they will push the wave out, but they will do it in a really terrible way. And what they'll end up doing is they think they've done something good. They think, oh, nice man, I soaked these 2 waves, and now I'm going to go back mid in case my team feeds. What they don't think about is, what have I just done to the wave? And what ends up happening is they end up denying themselves and their team a ton of CS, because they'll do a terrible slow push, or they won't crash the wave properly into the tower. They will end up screwing up the wave in some sense, and it actually hurts them, because if they had better wave management, they could get way more value out of being in that side lane. Way more value, but they don't. So what I want you to do, next time you find yourself arming with the team, and you're thinking in your head, okay, I'm going to go to this side lane and soak the wave, ask yourself a question, and really try and answer it honestly. When you're hitting the wave, think, why am I hitting the wave in this way? Do I know why I'm killing these minions? How many minions am I going to kill? Where is this wave going to be in the next 3-4 minutes? Do I know? Maybe not 3-4 minutes. The next minute. Where is this wave going to be? And how many minions are going to be there? How long is it going to take before this wave crashes back to me? I bet if you ask yourself these questions, you do not know the answer. And if you do know the answer and you learn about wave management, there's tons of content on YouTube. I advise you play top lane, actually. It's definitely the best lane to learn wave management, because you get punished really hard in top lane for not learning wave management, so it's much easier to identify. But if you do learn wave management, you'll be able to answer these questions. And every second you spend in the side lane will be infinitely more valuable because of it. And why am I telling you this? Because if you did understand this, and you did get actual value out of going to side lane, instead of just pushing 2 waves and then denying yourself 3 waves because you don't know how to manage the wave, you wouldn't find yourself in a situation where you're a whole lot weaker than someone and you can't split push because you're so goddamn weak. The fact also that you only mentioned items here tells me you don't know wave management, because a big part of wave management is XP. XP is actually worth more than gold, believe it or not. I highly doubt this guy knows this. But the fact you didn't even point out levels here is really, really telling that you have no idea how to manage a wave, because not okay. Yeah, the guy's a whole item ahead of you, but did you even mention maybe you're 3 levels ahead of him? If you manage the wave properly, you're going to be 3 fucking levels ahead of him, and you're also going to be ahead of him in items. So if you learn how to manage a wave in these side lanes and get value out these side lanes, you're not going to find yourself in this position where, you know, you've been split pushing for a little while, and you're somehow an entire fucking item behind someone. You won't find yourself in this position, even if they have kills, because you know how to manage a wave, and you have XP as well. Excuse me. Lastly, I'll just touch on this briefly. This is entirely situational. He's asking the question silver players always ask, do I armor with them, or do I go farm in a side lane? Silver players always ask this question. There is no answer. What you can understand, though, is you do not know if your team is going to fight, and you should stop thinking you do. Stop trying to predict if your team's going to fight. You can try and predict to some extent. You know, you can try and look at very, very small enemy movements to see if they're actually interested in fighting at all. But at the end of the day, you have no idea if they're going to fight or not, and you can't control it. Sure, you can stand there and put yourself incredibly far behind at the risk that they will, or you can do damage control. You can say, I'm going to go to this side lane, I'm going to do this, I'm going to prep the wave in this way. And so even if they do fight, and they do die, and it does go badly, I would have still got something for it. That is how you deal with it. If your team is that intent on arming, and you really feel like you can't force anything, or you can't stop the arm, or you can't get any picks, or you can't do anything about it, that is how you do it, okay? But the answer to this is essentially, it's completely, it is so, I'm not even going to try and answer it because it is so dependent on the comp. There is no answer. But recap, learn how to, you don't know how to manage the wave, man. You don't, and it sounds like you're an extremely passive player. So I would advise, learn how to manage the wave properly. Think about what you're doing in the side lane when you farm it, when your team's arming mid, and really just try and think about your lane more, man. You're playing mid lane. You can put a lot of pressure on the map, and you don't have to just roam to put a lot of pressure on the map. Bear in mind, you're right next to the jungle, both sides of the jungle. So if you're pressuring your lane a lot, that affects the map as well. You have a very binary way of thinking that you have to just push the wave and roam. It's not. There's much more to the game than that. That's what you're missing. He asked what he's missing. That's what you're missing. So that's what I say to this guy. Okay, so number 4. These are kind of fun to do by I Desire. What do I do with top lane lead? Last game I played Aurelia versus Jace. I killed him and won the lane, and he couldn't fight me anymore. You keep distance. Okay, so you zen him off the wave. You killed him and zen him off the wave. You froze the wave to deny him. He TP'd bot and got kills there. You pushed the wave and took jungle camps. Okay, splitting for a long time, but that didn't do much. Jace is getting kills, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so he killed the guy, froze, Jace left, got kills, Karthus got his camps, and then they lost. Should I group more, even if there's an object to fight over, or Aram mid? If I froze the lane, Jace would be denied golden XP, but Karthus would be free to farm his jungle. That's not mutually, those two aren't mutually exclusive, so we'll talk about that. If I pushed and took Karthus' camps, he would get behind, but Jace would get free farm under his turret. Again, those aren't mutually exclusive. So it feels like we both have downsides. Okay, so first what we'll do is we'll talk about freezing, because there is a question here, which is, when should I freeze? So this is one of the actual few things I would say is just really fucking different in high, you know, depending on the rank you're playing. Honestly, I wouldn't even worry about freezing that much when you're playing in low ranks, because it's not going to accomplish anything. Freezing accomplishes many things. It accomplishes 2 big things. The first, which you maybe should be concerned about, is it will really fuck someone over. Obviously, it will really, really fuck the guy you're freezing against. It's going to remove him from the game, essentially. But it is really dependent on the champion they're playing, okay? A lot of the time when you freeze, you need to realize something when you're freezing. If you're freezing a lane, you know what you're not doing? You are not threatening a tower. You're talking about split pushing. A split pushing it's a build up, okay? You gradually threaten more and more towers, you take more and more health off a tower, and then you really start threatening the base, and then you become a problem, okay? The thing is, you can't freeze a lane and then later complain that you're not threatening towers enough, because yeah, you weren't. You were freezing the lane for ages, man. So it took you ages to even get a tower low in the first place. But also you got to realize, you know what you aren't doing when you're freezing? You aren't getting tower plates, which is a lot of fucking gold, man. A lot of fucking gold. You're not getting tower plates. You're probably not even pressuring the map. But that's what you got to realize when you're freezing. You are sort of kneecapping your ability to snowball yourself, because you're not getting tower plates and you're not taking towers because you're freezing. So then you have to ask yourself, okay, if I'm kneecapping my ability, is it worth it? Who am I playing against? Is it worth screwing over this guy to, you know, slow down my snowballing a little bit? And you have to look at the champion for that, to be honest. If it's a Kayle or Nasus, fuck it, freeze the lane. What are they going to do? I mean, these champions, Nasus needs to stack. He's not a champion until he starts stacking. He needs 300, 400, 500 stacks before he's even a champion. And what is he going to do if he roams? He's going to ghost in someone's lane and auto attack them for 40 damage? Probably not. He's going to do nothing. You know what he's going to do? He's going to spam ping his jungler. So maybe it is worth to freeze against Nasus, because he will be actually removed from the game. It will be an actual 4v5. Even if he does group, who the hell cares? So against Nasus, maybe, yeah, it's worth it to freeze. Against Jace, it sounds like it wasn't worth it in this case, because guess what? The guy just left the lane and snowballed somewhere else. So maybe it wasn't worth it against Jace. That's what you got to think about when you want to talk about freezing. So the other thing a freeze does is, and again, this is really only applies to high reload, because in low reload people don't even realize it. The other thing it would do is it will create a ton of pressure on the map. Okay, if you did this in high elo, the Jace would be spam pinging his jungler non-stop to help, because the only way Jace gets bailed out of that situation, people are going to listen to your pings when you tell them Jace is leading. The only way he gets bailed out of the situation, literally the only way, is if his jungler comes and helps him. That's the other reason you freeze, because you want to force people to come to your lane and fix the situation with Jace. Waste their time, okay? But that doesn't really apply to low elo, because no one fucking cares. No one's going to listen to your pings, so Jace is going to end up roaming. So that's mostly how you decide when you freeze. You need to look at the matchup and ask yourself, is it worth it? Because you're going to be doing other things when you're spending that time freezing. This also strikes me. He eventually TP'd to bot lane and unfortunately got kills there. Now, I don't want to flame this guy's wave management because it doesn't sound as bad as, like, I'm guessing he's gold. It doesn't sound as bad as other gold players because, he's utilizing freeze. How does this happen, though? That's the thing. How does Jace get to TP bot for free and not lose a giant fucking lead? Because it sounds like as soon as Jace TP bot, oh, he's back in the game. How do you not match his TP? If you should have matched his TP is a different question, but how do you not match his TP in the first place? Did you not have it? If so, why? Why are you in a situation where Jace is allowed to TP there for free? Because it sounds like it's basically for free. Because he's complaining that he wasn't pressuring the map. That's number one. And again, this is the drawback of freezing. You kind of put this on yourself. Was it worth it? No, it wasn't fucking worth it. What else? So the other thing I want to talk about is this. I was splitting for a long time, you groups for objectives, okay. That didn't do much. Meanwhile, Jace was in almost every single team fight. Okay, so it sounds like you had basically no fucking threat on the map, split pushing. The whole point of split pushing is you need to fucking commit to it, okay? I don't know how... These are somewhat mutually exclusive, okay? I don't know how you're split pushing, but also grouping for every objective, it sounds like. That doesn't sound like split pushing. The point of a split push is you get so big and you really start to threaten towers so quickly that it actually takes multiple people to deal with you. The whole point, if you're committing to a playstyle like this, is Jace being there isn't going to be enough. No, it's going to take 2-3 people to be there to stop you killing the tower. And you need to threaten towers enough that they can't group for objectives. Because if they do, they're going to lose an inhibitor every time they take a fucking objective. What it sounds like to me is you didn't get as big a lead as you thought. Probably because you wasted time freezing instead of just taking tower plates. And because of that, Jace just got to run around the map for free because you actually weren't threatening any towers. Now, Aurelia, split pushing on Aurelia is fine. I would advise maybe you experiment with soloing Herald, because Aurelia's tower killing isn't monumentally fast. But you can also do stuff like proxying, for example, especially early mid-game. If you really want to pressure the map with split pushing, you can proxy. You can guarantee in any elo, if you start proxying wave, you're going to draw fucking attention, because that's what split pushing is about, right? You split push to draw attention away from your team. Makes the game way fucking easier for your team to play for split pushing properly, because there's going to be like a 3v4 bot lane, for example. They're going to get every objective for free because the whole enemy team's going to be wasting time trying to kill you, and you can just kill trade on the tower. So experiment with proxying. Zoning Jace off the wave. When you crash it to tower, if you were as ahead of Jace as you said you were, maybe you should actually just be able to dive the fucking guy. And just zone him from XP and just fucking dive the guy. If you have such a giant lead, you should be able to do that. He shouldn't be able to get free farm under the tower. You should be able to kill him, proxy the wave, and force Carthage to farm. So this whole thing, to me, just sounds like you froze for essentially no reason, just for the hell of it. In doing so, you kneecapped yourself. And then because of that, and the whole TP thing as well, because of that, you didn't have as big a lead as you thought. And therefore, you weren't a threat. You weren't a serious threat to killing towers. Nobody fucking cared, because it doesn't sound like you were that ahead. And you couldn't dive Jace into the towers, etc. And you couldn't solo carry the game. Split pushing in a context like this is about you getting as big as possible, so that it doesn't fucking matter if the enemy team's fed. It doesn't fucking matter if Jace gets kills, because you're sitting there getting so much gold. So that's what I'd say to this guy, is you really just think about why it is you're freezing, and don't just freeze for the fucking sake of it, because oftentimes you might think you're doing something good, but really you're just kneecapping your ability to carry the game. And again, experiment with stuff like proxying and really being much more aggressive, zoning Jace away from the wave, so you can actually starve him. And then you have much more options other than just freezing and sitting there in the lane. So that's what I say to this guy. Okay, so the next guy I was going to do, actually delete his post. So we'll do this poor guy instead, Alpha Betha, who says he's getting harassed and zoned in lane. The poor guy, it's been 56 minutes, 57 minutes, and he hasn't got an upvote, so we'll give him an upvote. Hiya. I'm an AD carry jungle player sitting at silver 2. Thank you for posting your rank. It's already better than every other post today where I have to guess. I am playing every game the role I feel like playing. My top priorities for my champions are Kai'Sa, Jhin, Tristana, Kog'Maw, and Evans. Okay. I try to match my support in draft. If the support picks an all-in champ, I give Kai'Sa or Tristana. Okay. Right when the first 2 waves hit, I'm down a couple of auto attacks from spells and spells across the map. What do you mean? What spell are you getting hit across the map from? Lilia E or what? Champions like Brand, I even go boots first to be able to dodge better. I dodge most of the stuff. Okay, well, you just told me that you go boots first to be able to dodge better because you're bad at dodging, and then now you're telling me you dodge most of the stuff. That's extremely conflicting, so God knows. Some things that just come through, and that's enough to chunk me. So with a good level 2 Leonor support, okay, so here he's basically saying he gets chunked out really hard, even though he's dodging all the stuff, but he also isn't dodging stuff because he has to buy boots. And that's where the lane is lost. So he thinks he just loses the lane level 2 because he gets chunked out too hard to engage on Tristana. That's already a big red fucking flag, by the way. If you're playing Tristana Leona and you're not going in, there's a serious problem, level 2, if you're not going in. Especially if you're against Jinx Senna. Like, god damn, man. Okay, and then basically the rest of the post he's just saying, yeah, because of this, we just lose the game. So there's a lot I want to talk about this, actually. So let's start. So number 1, just quickly, in draft I tried to match my support. Stop doing that. I won't spend time on this. Stop doing that, okay? You shouldn't give a fuck what your support thinks. You should give a shit about what you pick, and if it's good for you. Fuck what your support picks. Stop caring, okay? Don't be that guy that be like, there's always this support players like, what do you want me to pick? Pick whatever the fuck you want, dude. As long as you're not picking Vayne into Caitlyn, you should only care about how it affects you. Don't pick something specifically because it synergizes well, okay? You're not in a Challenger Real game. Who cares? Next. Right when the first 2 waves hit, I'm already down a couple of HP from auto attacks and spells across the map. So we'll talk about this a little bit more in depth. But against champions like Brand, I go boots first. Stop this, okay? Stop. The big reason you go, this is such a crutch, okay? What you're saying here is, I'm terrible at dodging. By the way, I don't know what you actually want people to help you with here. You just need to get better at dodging. There's really nothing anyone can do for you if you're bad at dodging. That's something you just have to get better at yourself. There really is no secret to it. But going boots first is just such a fucking crutch, man. Just stop doing it. The reason you go boots first isn't really to necessarily dodge shit, maybe a little bit. A big reason is because you can go 4 potions, and you don't have to buy... You can buy something while also buying 4 potions. It's a big reason you go boots first. Now, if you're against Blitzcrank, you may, on your first recall, instead of getting a pickaxe or a BF sword or whatever, a Noon Quiver, I guess people are right now, you might get tier 2 boots. Then that makes sense, because tier 2 boots will really help you dodge. Tier 1 boots are going to make a massive difference in dodging. Really, it's about the health potion. So it sounds like you're just buying them for a crutch. Now, how can you get better at dodging? Really, it's something you just have to practice, okay? You just have to play aggressive, like I've been saying this whole video. You just have to play aggressive. And really just test your fucking limits, to be honest. You just have to play aggressive. It's just something you have to do, okay? You just have to play a lot. What I can tell you is dodging, particularly low elo players and new players actually, tend to think of dodging as it's actually dodging. Really, dodging is much more about predicting than it is actually about dodging. Rarely, there's more skill shots in the game that have to be predicted than actually you don't dodge a Blitzcrank hook, okay? You don't react to a Blitzcrank hook and dodge it, okay? Because it's just too fucking fast and there's ping. You can't. What you do is you try and predict it. Almost always you will just try and predict where he's going to use it and preemptively dodge it, okay? So try and think of dodging like that, because if you're this bad at dodging, I kind of feel like maybe you are actually trying to dodge Brand W. You don't try and dodge Brand W. You need to know when he's going to use it, and then you can dodge it. I would also say, people with bad mechanics, I often tell them this. Actually, no, people who are new, I often tell them this. You need to imagine a tether. The whole game, you should be doing this with every champion, actually. I don't know if you do it. Maybe you don't. You should be imagining a tether between you and whoever the hell the enemy champion who's threatening you is. If they take a step forward, you need to react immediately to that. Now, you can take a step forward, back, left, right, doesn't matter, but you need to react to it, is the point. So that's also something I say on dodging. So, I guess that's your problem, is that you're just getting battered, but also harassed. The word harassed here is questionable. So, whenever I have a gold player who's playing AD carry and they're trying to consider, or they're asking me, how do I get better? How do I get to platinum? A massive thing I always tell them, and I will instantly, if you give me an AD carry, I will know what rank if they're gold or platinum, because they will harass people. Nobody in gold is fucking harassing me when I play AD carry. Nobody. If I smurf in gold, nobody harasses me. In platinum, they kind of start to do it. So I kind of feel like you're misusing the word harass here. So in the context of bot lane, the traditional sense of the word harass isn't just, throwing spells at people for free. That's, you can maybe say it's poking, but it's not harassing. Harassing is when you're going for a last hit, and the enemy goes for an auto attack on you. Now you have to make a choice. You either auto attack them back, in which case you lose the CS, because you're supposed to time it just as the minion's about to die, or you don't auto attack them back and you get the CS, but then you take a free auto attack. That's what harassing is in the traditional sense in bot lane. I highly doubt you're getting harassed every fucking game in Silver 2. I highly doubt it, because never have I ever played a game in Silver 2 where I get harassed. Not once. Maybe Caitlyn, that's about it. At least not properly, okay? Now, I think the problem here is more your positioning, okay? It is kind of normal to take some auto attacks when you go in for last hits if you're in a difficult matchup. It is not normal to be taking a ton of auto attacks level 1 for no reason. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like you're very disrespectful with your positioning. It sounds like you're trying to hit the minions always, and you're just giving them free auto attacks because you're not auto attacking them back, or you're not timing your auto attacks on them to be the minions. Look at your minions, man, okay? Right? You don't have to be hitting the wave constantly. Sure, sometimes you might have to fight for level 2, so you have to hit the wave a lot, but you should be looking at your minions as well and getting an auto back on them. When that minion's about to die and you know they have to last hit minion, you should be getting an auto attack back on them, okay? And on the flip side, maybe be a little bit more conscious of your positioning, okay? You don't have to sit there in auto attack range for the entire laning phase, okay? That's probably why you're taking so much damage. That, along with your dodging as well. So, the other thing I want to talk about quickly is this statement. That's where the lane is lost. Okay, man, you are not in Challenger, okay? You are in Silver 2. I can promise you the lane is not lost just because you fucked up really hard level. You didn't even die. Even if you died, the lane's not lost, okay? Stop this mentality. It's so defeatist, and it sounds like you basically just give up because you think, oh, well, if Leona doesn't go in here, then I guess we just lose the lane, right? It's such a defeatist mentality, okay? The lane isn't lost. It's just such a ridiculous thing to say, okay? So what you should do, get better at dodging, get better at harassing, get better at your positioning, using the things I've told you. And even if you fuck up level 2, who cares, dude? You're playing in Silver. They're not going to punish you. They've probably given you 1,000 opportunities to come back and to kill them, but you're too blind to see it because you've just given up on the lane because you think that it's the end of the world that you lost 20% of your health level 1. It's not the end of the world. And honestly, in a lot of these matchups, Jinx Senna, even if you do lose 20% of your health level 1, you can still probably fucking kill them level 2 pretty goddamn easily, okay? You're playing, man, it's just Stana. Like, you have the best level 2 in the whole fucking game. I don't know how, even if half health, you'll still probably trade a kill back. Like, goddamn, man. But that's what I say to this guy. I think again, I'd have to look at your replays, which we'll be happy to do. By the way, anyone in this video, I'm happy to look at replays from these people because they have interesting situations which I can use for YouTube content. So get better at positioning, because I think your positioning is probably very poor. Learn what actual harassing is, because getting hit by skill shots isn't harassing. Stop buying boots as a crutch, and just get better at dodging. And try and think of dodging as more a predictive game than an actual dodge, because I'd say probably like 70% of the things I dodge, I actually just predict, because that's what you have to do. It's very, very difficult and honestly kind of pointless otherwise. So that's what I say to this guy. And I guess we'll do a few more, and I'll let these guys know that I have replied, and maybe we'll do another one.